actually had a conversation with someone last week that we were talking about digital retailing tools, and there's not a lot of adoption by the consumer on utilizing digital retailing tools. So it kind of got me thinking, and the statistics show that it's definitely increasing. Like from 3-4 years ago, it was maybe 1-2%, and now we're looking at about maybe 10%. So it's increasing. It's just, it's slow. And I mean, and rightly so. It's the second largest purchase anybody makes in their lifetime, so it kind of stands to reason. How long did it take us to, I bought my house almost 100% online. Like, we had wet signatures in half of the amount that we did for our current house now than we did before for my last house, which I bought 10 years ago. So, I mean, it's there with big purchases, it's going to be slower to be adopted. That's just a given. But it is increasing. So back to what I said in the beginning, the conversation I had. The conversation was frustration expressed by somebody that, well, not a lot of customers are utilizing the digital retailing tool. To which then I asked, are you using the digital retailing tool? And she said, well, what do you mean? And I said, well, are you using the digital retailing tool when you have a customer who sent an internet lead in and is asking questions like, what would my payment be? What would you give me for my trade? Things like that. Are you redirecting them to the digital retailing tool? And she said, well, no. And I went, okay, well, why not? To which she was like, well, I never thought about it like that. So that's kind of where I would, if I were at a dealership, if I were working at a dealership, if I were running an internet department, that's kind of where I would start. I would start redirecting my consumers who are contacting the dealership either by phone or with internet leads through different third-party sources. I would run them through the digital retailing tool. Now, I know what the next question is, won't that get a lot of duplicates? Yeah, it might get a few duplicates, but I'm telling you what you're going to create. You're going to create a culture at your store where you're saving the consumer time because you're encouraging them to utilize the tools that you already have in place that are meant to save them time. And there's one commodity that I don't care if you're buying a Bugatti Veyron or a Nissan Versa, that we all equally share in the value of, is the value of our time. We all have, that's utmost immense value for each of us. So what I would strongly encourage you to do is make that a part of your internet process. If someone has not filled out the digital retailing tool to purchase the car from your dealership, I would absolutely and they're asking those questions about payment, trade and evaluation, things like that, I would redirect them to the digital retailing tool for that particular model and that they're looking at, and I would say, or if they haven't picked one yet, hey, this is the price range that you wanted to stay in overall, so I'm sending you a link to a vehicle that we have in stock that is in that price range that you can then break down what your payment might look like, what your financing options might look like, what your trade-in evaluation might look like, things like that. I really, and I know I'm going to bristle a lot of sales managers with this, but you have control over that digital retailing tool. You do. You have control over the input in it. So if you're not getting numbers that are accurate or that are difficult to follow through with or confirm when you get into the store, then that's on you and what you added into the digital retailing tool when you set it up. So go in and reevaluate it and set it up the way you need it to be set up. But conversely, on the other side of that, by giving that customer back their time, respecting and appreciating their time, and giving them that perception of control over what steps and where in the process they are. And then you really need to alter the way you have your follow-up process done with someone who's completed or someone you are hand-holding walking through the digital retailing process. What I mean by that is, okay, Mr. Smith, I see you got to the trade-in valuation part in there. Is there something holding you back? Did you need to discuss that more? Did you want us to see the vehicle in person? How can I help you move forward with this process? You really need to adjust your follow-up process pertaining to where they are in the digital retailing tool. And it's no longer, and I still see this, and it's not exclusive to, a Honda store or a Ford store. I've seen this at Highline dealerships, that you're basically ticking a box where, yeah, boss, I emailed him. Yeah, boss, I called him. But you really didn't have anything of quality to say, so you don't know why they're not calling you back. And so as managers, then the manager's looking at you like, well, you're obviously not doing your follow-up if he's not answering. Well, no, it's not a matter of the fact they're not doing the follow-up. It's they're not doing a quality of follow-up that is of value to that particular consumer. So slow down and take the time to actually speak to where that consumer is in the process. In the digital retailing tool, you need to be able to have access to the back end to be able to see they stopped at the credit application, they stopped at the trade-in evaluation, they stopped at the accessories, or whatever they stopped at. So then you can call them and have an educated conversation about where they stopped and why they stopped, and encourage them to move forward in the process. Just calling and emailing, hey, I see you have an ASU email address. I went to ASU too, go Sun Devils. That's great, but you're trying to advance through a conversation. It's like you're on a first date, and before you even order dinner, you're already asking what their marriage plans are. It's a little presumptuous. It's a little, you're trying to create rapport where you've not set up the infrastructure or groundwork to build rapport. So keep in mind where that consumer came from, and then adjust your follow-up process accordingly and make it unique to where they are in the process. So if they're on the digital retailing tool, in our example that we're using, you have to be able to have a word track, an email track, and a text track that encourages them to move forward in the process. And not, hey, when can you complete this purchase? Hey, are you looking to buy this weekend? We're having a great sale this weekend. Can you come in Saturday or Sunday? That's very self-serving. And that's very transparent that it's self-serving. So start changing the narrative to how it benefits yourself, to how it benefits the consumer. How are you valuing the consumer's time? How are you appreciating the opportunity they've given you to earn their business? So think of it from that perspective, and really craft your responses away from the generic. Like, if I could get rid of email templates altogether, I would. I'm not a fan. I see their purpose. Don't get me wrong. I see their definite purpose. But unless you're personalizing and making them unique to where that consumer is in the process, they're worthless. So I just did a mystery shop, and pretty much every response I had was extremely generic. I mean, there were some where they were talking about where I went to school, and they went to school there too, which is great. But again, you're getting ahead of yourself. We haven't even figured out what car I want to buy, if I have a trade, where I'm coming from, where my financing or leasing, where that money's coming from, paying cash or whatever. So to jump right into, hey, I went to this school too, it's just a little presumptuous. So that's a better conversation for when you're on the phone with them talking, voice to voice. So to recap, stop being afraid of the digital retailing tool. Really encourage your customers all around to engage with it and really utilize it within their purchase process. And let me tell you what happens long term if you start doing that with your customers that are asking those type of questions. Guess what they're going to do the next time they buy a car? They're going to use the digital retailing tool. So plant the seeds now and continue to grow that connection with the digital retailing tool as saving and valuing their time, and then you honing in on a specific follow-up word track, email, text, verbiage that actually shows value in what they're doing and the steps they've already taken, and pushes them through to the next step, or helps encourage them, make them feel like you're really there to work for them, which you are. Hope that helps. Happy selling.